say you don't watch a lot of horror movies, but I'm watching this.
No. I've been watching a bunch.
Oh, right, because it looks like you did a lot of research for this.
Yeah.
It's like the way people look and the movie.
Yeah, I have as an audience, I like watching horror films. But if you're like a horror film fan, it's really it will become really difficult in terms of like finding a good horror film. Yeah.
Can you talk about the casting of this film? Because I love that all these characters, they look like they could be ghosts, but they also look ridiculous. So can you talk about like casting and then creating the look of all these characters?
Yeah, most of the cast in Dead Tele Society are actually like real life good friends of mine. It's like we've always talking about like we should make a film together with this actor and with the other actress. It's like we know each other for decades. So when we decided to start this project, it's kind of like an instant idea for me to just cast all of them and let's make it into some kind of a reunion to everyone. So that's why they also kind of have like during the shooting and the pre-production of the film, they kind of become good friends as well. So it is becoming like a found family during the production. It's something that's rare in my career, and also something I'm like really appreciated. Yeah.
I'm very impressed by the mustache in this movie. Can you talk about like did you fit many mustaches? What's the journey of the mustache?
Yeah, because if you're familiar with Bowling Chan's career, you know that he's always the handsome guy. Yeah, he's always this like handsome and smart and thoughtful, like cool guys kind of vibe. So when we decided to hire him to play the character Makoto, we gotta find something to destroy his handsomeness. Yeah. So anyway, the costume designer that came up with this mustache thing, and we felt that it's perfectly on him. And I remember during one scene, that in the later scene, that when Makoto was like dressing up, like changing her clothes into the schoolgirl uniform, and he was saying something like, even if no one is watching you, I'll still be watching you. It's kind of like one of those romantic lines. We actually, in the beginning, we decided that after his mustache was like slapped away by Catherine, that mustache is gone forever, like for the rest of the movie. But when we do that scene, that when he say that romantic line to Catherine, it was so weird without the mustache. It's like, who are you? Who is this person? So it's like on set, we decided to put it back. So.
I'm sure there's some questions in the audience. You want to ask the director any questions? Yes.
I thought the movie was completely creative and it seemed something like that. Were there any influences that weren't horror, like some comedy influences that were in the movie?
Okay, yeah. Besides all those like references from horror films, my main references, or you can also say inspirations. I mean, as an audience, as a filmmaker, and as the inspiration for this film are mostly about several filmmakers' work. For example, in terms of like the comedy pacing, it's mostly influenced by Edgar Wright. Like you can see all those like fast-paced cuts in between the montage and all this like people are interrupting each other's line all the time. That's kind of mostly inspired by Edgar Wright. And the other one is something that's a little bit further than that, is like films like Little Miss Sunshine. Like thematically it's kind of the same. And also we took a lot of structurally, we also study a bunch of like Pixar films. and how they construct that like ensemble cast and how they interact with each other. And for me personally, the lesson, also the most influential filmmaker to me is Dan Harmon, yeah, which is the creator of Rick and Morty and Community. I think my point of view in terms of what is winning and what is losing and what is being seen, and if this everything is pointless and if everything is meaningless, what you're trying to do, that kind of debate is what is always like something that's presence in his work, and they also have a lot of like influence on me. Yeah.
Other questions? Yeah.
What would you say was the hardest scene or like thing to film or conceptualize? Like in the movie?
Yeah, the first main difficulty is of course the world view. Yeah, the world building is quite difficult, especially when we have something we want to say. Not just it's not like we're just like building a world with random rules. Everything needs to go back to the theme we're talking about. So that became part of the difficulty when we were developing the scripts. And for me, the most difficult scene to shoot is probably the third act, which is the whole like a live broadcast of the two ghosts are fighting each other because there are too many things happening at the same time. You have the influencers, you have the broadcast, you have the audience, you have the two teams that's fighting each other. So you can imagine that I have to like deal with like more than 10 actors at the same time in the same place. It's like the whole thing. The situation at on set is more like a kindergarten with only one teacher. It was so chaotic. Yeah.
There's a hand all the way in the back.
Yeah. I wanted to know, is it okay if I ask 2 questions?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. My first question is, what is your favorite scene of the movie? And my second being, like, what was your favorite part about like the movie making process?
Okay. My favorite scene of the movie is probably I think it's when the new girl is like start chasing the influencer and the theme song start playing. I think it was that moment. I think after we figure out that we should put our theme song on that moment, and then everything just clicked. That was one of the most magical moments during the production. And I remember every time I watched the chase of the 5 ghosts to the influencer, I just cried so hard. Yeah, and because it's like they're chasing something they know is going to be fruitless, but they're going to do that anyway. I think it was that kind of spirit that will touch me a lot. And about which scene that I enjoy making. The music video, of course. That was probably the easiest day for the whole production because we shot the film during when COVID happened, so everything was super intense, even it's a comedy, but everyone was so struggling and painful and stressful. It's like no one is laughing during the whole production, except the day we shoot the music video, because it's always nice to make the handsome cool guy to do something stupid. Yeah.
There.
You mentioned after detention that you felt a disconnect between how audiences and critics received the film versus how you were feeling internally. How do you feel now that this film is being shown theatrically, and do you still feel that disconnect, and how did you deal with the imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I think that the process of making Dead Talent Society for me is more like a therapy. It's like a catharsis that I did to myself when I was writing the script. Because in the beginning I wasn't even aware that why I feel so sorry for the ghost I watched in the horror film. It took me about 1 year then until I finally realized that why that is because why I feel so much connected to the ghost, because I am the ghost. Because as a filmmaker, as an actor, or as any kind of content creator, you're always like pulling your heart out and you're doing everything you can to please the audience, to get recognized by someone else, whether it's about the box office or the award or the audience or the critics. It's like you're always like catering for everyone else but you, because there's everyone is like trying to give you opinions, give you feedback, whether that's a good thing to say or a bad thing to say. Sometimes it can feel quite disconnected with what you have done because you're putting so much effort in your work. So I think it's that cognitive dissociation for me to don't really feel that I actually achieved something. But by making this film, I got the chance to dig back to my personal story. For example, the new girl's backstory is kind of like mine. We also have this cabinet in my parents' house with all kind of trophy, and I even took a picture in my parents' house for that cabinet to send it to the production design team to make sure that they had the same one. Yeah, so it's kind of like this. After this process, I actually feel better, and I think the lesson I learned is that I would care less about what other people say and trying to put myself in the priority a bit more. Like make sure I satisfy myself than anyone else. Yeah.
In the corner?
Why did you put so many giraffes in the movie?
Yeah, glad you noticed it. Yeah, it was the thing I do. Whenever I'm making a film or short film or music video, animation, even VR project, I put giraffes in it for no reasons. Yeah, it's like making a film can be stressful, so we have to have some fun. So whenever I start a production, I always make sure that the art director, the production designing team know this is going to be a thing. So they can also prepare all kind of giraffe. Sometimes it's a parent, sometimes it's like a small figure, sometimes it's just a painting, and they will put it without letting me know. So and sometimes it becomes like a game. Like for example, my production designer will approach to me when I'm checking on the set, saying like, "Do you know where the giraffe is in the scene?" I was like, start trying to find it, and sometimes I couldn't. Yeah. So this is kind of like the thing I do. Yeah, since decades ago when I made my first short film. Yeah.
There's another hand. Okay. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for your film, and mine's kind of a meta question. But first, I want to say it's a question about kind of this talk right now, because it was great to hear your reasons, because in some ways you're doing this art of failure, and you're really celebrating that, and this how do you be seen, and at the end the losers see each other, and that's all that matters, right? And it's really gorgeous. And I was noticing like it's a really different director's talk than I ever attended. And so if you had to do other directors' talks where you're really trying to like pretend to be a director, and then this one you come in and you decided to be like, it's going to be me. Like I'm just curious, like how how you're experiencing these kinds of Q&As.
I think it's probably mostly have something to do with the film itself. Because when I was doing Q&A or like director's talk for Detention, there's nothing else, nothing more you can say but like a historical background or why we're making this film and something like that. It was like way too serious. But I sometimes like accidentally found that this kind of connection between me and the audience. Sometimes when we were in Taiwan, we had a bunch of like Q&A and with the actors. Sometimes it can become like a super touching. I mean, the whole Q&A session. It's like the audience are crying when they're talking to the actors or me, and then the actors are crying, saying that it's thank you for this kind of connection. So I think it's kind of it's kind of natural after you encounter a story like this, and after we made a story and want to feel connected with a lot of people. I think that's kind of like, I guess that's why it happened this way. Yeah.
Yes.
I really like how you mentioned connection with the audience, because you just mentioned about Dan Harmon. I'm also a big fan of Rick and Morty. And after you mentioned Dan Harmon, I just immediately think of the part in Rick and Morty of the interdimensional TV series. And I think the live broadcast of the Act 3 was like really like, it looks so much like a program that will be featured on the film. So the moment when you brought that up, I was like, wow, I'm really connected to this film. Like, I can see the vision of like what you're trying to get at, and then you're really having fun with this work. So I really appreciate the work. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, the idea of like keep changing TV channel was actually more inspired by Robot Chicken, because we've been doing that for. I had like a period of time like making short YouTube video about World of Warcraft with a bunch of friends,
Right.
like for decades ago. We basically just do clips like this, like inspired by Robot Chicken, and keep changing channels so we can use a bunch of like Warcraft characters to do stupid things. Yeah, but in terms of like influence from Dan Harmon, I think it's more about community. Yeah, I think that's more something that's more similar to what we're trying to do here. Yeah, but also I'm also a big fan of Rick and Morty as well. Yeah.
Time for maybe one or two more questions. Yeah.
I love the movie. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much for that incredible work. What motivated you to get into filmmaking? Is it a childhood dream? Are you interested in storytelling early on?
Wow. I'm not like some like film school students that always wanted to be a filmmaker or a director. I was just like enter film school like accidentally, because I spent most of my time in high school doing something else, like playing with my friends or doing like I was actually making video games when I was in high school. So I always thought that I'm going to enter the gaming industry, but by that time we don't actually have a gaming industry in Taiwan, so it doesn't make sense if you want to get into college. So with my grade, the film school I entered was the only school I can get in. So it was by then I started to build my interest around films. I become like a fan of all kind of films, and I would go to like a lot of different film festivals just to watch films that's rare to find. And yeah, then the rest is like it just happened on me. Yeah.
One last question. Who hasn't asked? In the middle, in the back? Yes.
Hi. Do you remember any music that you were listening to during the filming process?
Wow, nice question. In the beginning, when we actually made a short film version of Dead Children Society, like back when, like way before I start writing the script. And I think it was during that time I was listening to a Japanese ska band called Tokyo Ska Paradise. Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra, or Tokyo Star Orchestra Paradise. I forgot the order. Yeah, I think that was the album, one of the albums I was listening to when I'm writing that short film. And we kind of decided that it's going to be big band jazz with probably ska tempo to use in the actual film. because I think that the offbeat tempo suits so much to the story, because there's like they're always like busy chasing something, and sometimes a little bit clumsy, and also it's kind of like a carnival. It's like everyone is like trying their best. It's like they're having fun, but at the same time, it's like super stressful. That kind of like a mixed feeling. I think that the music genre we found like suits that like a lot. And for the theme song, it was by Joanna Wang. She's like a popular Taiwanese singer. She's like doing her own things, like recently for the past few years, starting to experimenting on different stuff. And we found her, it's also become some kind of like a accidental connection between our film and her work, because we are both trying something new, and that something might sound super weird for the mass audience, but it just fit together super well. Yeah.
And Joanna Wang, Taiwanese American. Yeah, she's also Taiwanese American.
Yeah. I think that she also understands what we're trying to say in terms of this film because of her background.
Right.
Yeah, so it was like also like part of the connection we are super appreciated. Yeah.
Well, thank you, director.
Yeah, thank you both for coming.
Thank you all for being in the audience. I forgot to mention before, I also want to thank the Taiwanese American professionals of San Diego. Thanks for helping get the word out. And we have one more screening of the film tomorrow. If you know some friends who would love a movie like this, please tell them to come back.